Hello, YouTube. This is Justin with how to enable keyboard commands in Gmail. I'm going to share with you the process for doing this using a screen reader. In this case, I'm using non-visual desktop access, or NVDA, which many of you hopefully might be familiar with. I'll try to compare it to JAWS, but I think the command structure tends to be pretty similar, and I think your experience might be pretty similar. But I'm here in Google Chrome in Gmail. And if you've ever tried to use the Gmail interface online instead of using it through an application like Outlook or Thunderbird, you might have noticed that you load it up and there's some issues with navigating an email. So I'll just go ahead and start from the address bar.
Selection removed.
And,
Tab can.
oh, actually, I'm in the address bar. And I'll just press enter. It'll be just as if we were loading into
mail.google.com/mail/u/1/play equals 1 number inbox. Selection removed. Main landmark alert. Main landmark. Table. Row. Mobility internet.
So to start with here, and I would explain this in another video, but the best way to handle Gmail is to go into forms mode. So that's what I do. You just toggle that back and forth, and I think JAWS has a similar command. But what you might notice is after you do that, you can navigate up and down using the arrow keys and see what you have in your inbox.
Main landmark. Table. Important. Me. Monica 3. Important. Susan. Lydia 2. Important. Me. Monica 6. JH back June 27th to July 1st. 1:50.
I just press Control to quiet that. So you can see that that works. But then what if I want to read one of these messages? I press enter. Absolutely nothing happens. That's because keyboard commands by default are not enabled on the online Gmail interface. And if you've ever read the list of keyboard commands that they have in the Google Help, or if you've ever tried to do anything really as basic as simply opening up a message to read it, you can't unless the keyboard commands are enabled. So when you start using a Gmail account online for the first time, you've never been there before, you have to go manually enable keyboard commands. So what we're going to do is there's a sidebar to the left of the inbox. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate to that with the left arrow, and then I'm going to go up using the up arrow, and then we'll shift tab back until we hear settings. And I think it's possible. We'll look at another way of getting there too as well. So let's try this.
Navigation landmark. Mail. Compose.
So I just did left arrow and up arrow a few times, and then shift tab.
Banner landmark. Google account. Google Apps. Settings button.
Great. And let's just consider another way to do this. I'm going to go into browse mode, and then just using the key command to navigate by forms.
Google Apps. Google account. Go clickable settings button.
Yeah. Now let's
Main
see.
landmark. Table. Important.
Starting
Accessing
from my
higher GR.
messages
Important.
view where I was before. Let's see what kind of a trip that would be if I was going to go back using the forms key, which in this case with NVDA is F.
Clickable select input to input clickable newer button on it show more clickable refresh bar select menu navigation landmark clickable meet grouping but clickable spaces but clickable chat frame chat options menu chat button clickable more button compose but banner land Google Apps button clickable set clickable support clickable settings button.
Well, I just shift tabbed all the way from the inbox from the messages to, you can see it's quite a lot of tabbing. Probably if we press Control Home and then start from that direction. Anyway, so we'll press enter on this.
Blank.
And what it does is it expands it, and it didn't really read it. It wasn't very verbose, but I believe if I just start pressing tab though.
Close button.
See, here's a close button, which is to say this wasn't there before. And the reason why it's there now is because there's an item that's been expanded. So let's keep tabbing.
See all settings button.
And we find the see all settings buttons. So one thing that you should know is when you hit the settings first, it just brings a kind of a abridged, shortened version of there's just some quick settings that it'll show you. But to actually go into your settings, then you have to go find this button that says view all settings, pressing enter.
Clickable general tab.
Okay, and then we know that it's loaded when we hear general tab. So there's a few different tabs here, which we could look at another time. So I'm going to make sure I'm in browse mode. Now I'm in browse mode. You heard that sound. There's a couple ways that I could get down to this. It's a checkbox, but for some reason, when I navigate with NVDA and press the X key, it doesn't find it right away. So my options are either, as far as I know, to navigate by F, which is basically gonna touch every single type of form element on here, or I could navigate actually by table too. So let me press T to find the next table, because I believe that's gonna show me all of these. It's going to take me to the top of the actual settings.
Main landmark clickable table with 32 rows and 2 columns.
Of course, you just heard it's a table with 32 rows and 2 columns. So you could figure each row is basically going to be a setting. So what I'm looking for here is a setting about keyboard commands. And it's going to be a row where you're going to have a disabled checkbox, or an enabled checkbox, if I recall correctly. Let's go look for it. So I'm going to just start navigating down by row. And for NVDA, that's Control Alt down arrow.
Row 2 language, row 3 phone, row 4 max, row 5 undo set, row 6 default, row 7 hover action, row 8 send and arc, row 9 default texts.
And just a warning, it's going to be a little while.
Row 10 images, row 11 dynamic, row 12 grammar, row 13 spelling, row 14 auto, row 15 smart compose, row 16 smart compose, row 17 conversation, row 18 nudges, row 19 smart reply, row 20 smart features, row 21 smart feature, row 22 desktop note, row 23 stars, row 24 keyboard, row 24 keyboard shortcuts. Link learn more about keyboard shortcuts.
Okay, here we go. We found keyboard shortcuts. I went past it and then just did Control Alt up arrow to go back. Okay. So let's use the F key forms to try and see if I can.
Column 2 keyboard shortcuts off radio button checked.
Here's the off button. You can see it's checked. Again, this is going to be the default if you've never used Gmail before online.
Keyboard shortcuts on radio button not checked.
Okay, here we go. You can see it's not checked. Let's press enter on this.
Checked.
And now keyboard shortcuts on should be checked.
Keyboard shortcuts on radio button checked.
As you can appreciate, it is checked now. So that's not the only thing that I need to do, though. There is going to be a save button at the bottom, and I'll just save you a bunch of time. We'll press Control N.
Out of table toggle button not pressed, hide side tab.
So I just jump to the last item on the page, and then we'll Shift B back. So basically navigating to the previous button.
Main landmark click Save Changes button.
I just did that twice. If you're curious, the button to the right of this is
Cancel button.
Cancel. So
Save Changes button.
Save Changes.
Please wait. Unavailable. Blank. Clickable main landmark table with 50 rows.
So I press enter on that, and then settings close out, and then you can hear it was a table with 50 rows and so many columns, and that tells you you're back at the inbox again. So I'm going to go into forms mode, and then we'll try this out.
Susan, Lydia,
So
important, me, Monica 6.
Here's a message. What happens if I press enter now?
Conversation opened 6 messages. All messages.
And I can press N to review the next message.
List. Monica Mal. Justin Harford 1.
P to review the previous message.
3. Justin Har. Monica.
Back in the old days, we used to use forms mode just for editing forms, but now it actually has a lot of use for getting functionality out of online applications like Gmail. And hopefully I'll be able to make a video about that one day. I'm going to go back to my inbox by pressing G, then I.
Main landmark, table, important, me, Monica 3.
And there you go. That is how you enable shortcut keys in the Gmail online interface using non-visual desktop access or another screen reader. I hope that it's been useful. If you enjoyed it, like and subscribe and let your friends know about it.